On German appeasement, part 2. Here is post-war Germany. An interesting moment happens early in Hitler's reign when the Saarland, which is this coal mining region north of Alsace-Lorraine, which had been administered by the French since the Great War ended, was going to have what was called a plebiscite, which is a popular vote to determine whether the Saarland's people want to go with France or want to join with Germany. And the French have spent a lot of time and money trying to encourage them to join with France. But when the vote finally comes, the Saarland chooses to join back with Germany, which is where it had been. Now, that's not surprising, and it's not a bad thing. That was agreed upon by the various treaty powers. It's not a breaking of any kind of rule or law. However, north and east of the Saarland, and east of the Rhine River down here south of Strasbourg, and largely west of the Rhine River north of that, is the part of Germany that became the romantic cause for which all Germans could agree was worth fighting about, which is the Rhine, the German Rhine, the Watch on the Rhine that we saw the song about. All of this came during Napoleonic times when Napoleon seized the Rhineland and incorporated it into France. And beyond it was, well, we don't go back into Napoleon, it's not necessary. One of the things that France got at the Treaty of Versailles was the greater Rhineland region was to be demilitarized in perpetuity. The demilitarization of the Rhineland means that nobody who's German can bring military forces into that part of Germany. In fact, the Rhineland had been occupied by American, British, French, Belgian troops up through the early 1930s. And the French largely took over as the other Allied forces withdrew from their Rhineland responsibilities. So the French army is protecting the western portion of Germany, and the Germans are not allowed to send any of their own military forces into parts of Germany. Why? Because the French don't want German forces on their border, considering the fact that France has been invaded by the Germans twice in 1870, 1871, and in 1914. They don't want a third repetition of this. However, as Hitler becomes more confident domestically with his anti-Semitic laws and his Night of the Long Knives and all the other things we talked about last week, and as Hitler appreciates that as he breaks the various agreements and brings Germany's rearmament back into the open, that there's a lot of weakness out there, a lot of talk, not much action, what Hitler is going to do is he's going to make a bit of a gamble. One of the things that you may learn in life is that sometimes in order for you to achieve great results, you have to take great risks. Now, I'm not telling you to be foolish and reckless, but Hitler didn't get where he was by playing it safe. So he makes a secret plan with the army that has now taken an oath of loyalty personally to him. And in 1936, the plan is for German forces to do a quiet surprise drive into the Rhineland. Now, Germany's army, compared to the French army in 1936, is about as formidable as a house cat fighting a mountain lion. The German general staff balks and says, you don't know what you're about to unleash. The French are not going to let us come into the Rhineland and take it over. This is the border of their country. They may put up with a bunch of nonsense, but this is us moving troops in and expecting them to move troops out in advance. If they fight, we're dead. So Hitler has to do a deal with his army. All of the units going into the Rhineland have secret orders. that if a single French unit so much as stops and fights, the entire operation will turn around to 180 and go back into Germany. The moment that the French show any spine or any resistance, the gamble is over. On those terms, the army agrees. And early in the morning, the German forces move into the Rhineland. The French, caught by surprise, order their troops to go back to France. They don't want to start a war right now. Remember all of the pro-peace, pacifistic utopianism. The French aren't sure the British are going to go to war over the Germans sending troops into what is, after all, part of their own country. In fact, many British leading politicians have said as much. So Hitler's gamble, which a lot of anti-Nazi Germans, which include many people within the higher structure of Germany's general staff, of their army leadership, they're hoping that the Western powers will show some backbone and call Hitler's bluff. But they don't. Instead of Hitler getting weaker, straight to, he's emboldened, and all of the people who were honestly wondering what was going to happen begin believing Hitler's propaganda that he's some kind of mystical Superman that can figure out things that no one else can see, like the weakness of the West. Well, actually, more and more people are beginning to see that. So Hitler has remilitarized the Rhineland in 1936. Now, he also tries in 1936 to move against Austria. There's an Austrian fascist party headed by a chancellor named Dollfuss. And Dollfuss, although he's a fascist, is not a tool of Germany's Nazi party. So Austria's Nazis assassinate Chancellor Dollfuss, who's an ally of Benito Mussolini. And Italy makes it clear early on that if the Germans intend to follow up this criminal act with an invasion, that the Italian army is going to go riding across the Brenner Pass and drive Germany back. And Germany is so early into its rearmament that even the Italian army seems like an overwhelming opponent. Hitler backs off. Dollfuss is dead, but Dollfuss's fascist Austrian government will continue for a little while. Now it's 1938, 2 years after the Rhineland. It's after Italy has conquered Ethiopia. It's after the League of Nations has gone bye-bye. It's after the Spanish Civil War has really heated up, and Germany and Italy are working hand in glove together there. In 1938, Hitler plans another big gamble. He is demanding publicly that national self-determination demands that Austria become a part of Germany. So the Austrians and the international community say, fine, you know what we'll do? We'll have a plebiscite, a vote of the people to determine whether they want to remain independent or join a greater German Reich. Hours before the voting is going to take place, the Wehrmacht, Hitler's German army, crosses the border into Austria and drives on Vienna. The Austrians are confused. The government does not order any resistance. In fact, the government collapses. If you've seen The Sound of Music, the Von Trapp family sneaks out across the mountains to Switzerland. Well, that happens a little later, but this sets the stage. This is called Anschluss, the Anschluss of Austria, the annexation of a free and independent Austria. The greatest gift that Benito Mussolini ever gives Adolf Hitler is that he, as this happens, through his son-in-law, Foreign Minister of Italy, Ciano, tells Hitler that we will not come across the Brenner Pass, that we can trust Germany in Austria. Mussolini lets it happen. And he is the only foreign leader with any real might who could have intervened in Austria. So now Austria is part of Germany, and the Rhineland is part of Germany in every way that matters. The military can operate there, and the Saarland is all part of Germany too. And once again, the anti-Nazi Germans that were desperately afraid that Hitler was going to bring about a global war or a greater general European war, that Hitler was going to bring doom on Germany, were hoping that Hitler would do this in such a way that didn't damage Germany too much, but that caused him to lose power. But strike three, the world does nothing while Hitler's gamble pays off. So Hitler has rearmed Germany, has remilitarized the Rhineland, and has annexed Austria. 3 strikes, but this is the world of politics, not baseball. So are we out? Or is the batter still going to be up? Is this some namby-pamby little league where people don't want to have 3 strikes because it might hurt somebody's self-esteem? Well, we'll see next time.